guys, welcome to Vlogmas 2017. We have 30 minutes left to get to the dog park before the sun goes down, and we're waiting on my husband. So you better hurry because they're about to like throw a fit if they don't get to go to the park. Yeah. Do you see them? Where are they? Go get them. Hi, Dogger. To the actual learning portion of Vlogmas Day 1. So today we're going to go over ABGs, or arterial blood gases. Now what that means is it's made up of a lot of things that you can find out in this test, but the three main ones that you need to know for nursing school are pH, CO2, and bicarb. And so your pH, your normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. Your normal range for CO2 is 35 to 45. Kind of easy to remember those two. And then your bicarb normal is between 22 and 26, and each of these values varies depending on your school, your textbook, your facility. So just look at the normal range on the computer, but keep in mind these numbers when you're looking at problems. Okay, so let's do a practice problem with this stuff to figure out which one of these we're working with. Okay, so let's start with your pH, CO2, HCO3. Okay, so let's say pH is 7.3. CO2 is 48, and bicarb is 30. So first start with your pH. Which side are you on? Don't think left and right with these arrows, think acidosis, alkalosis. That's why you need to write them out or make them a different color or something. So this one, it's an acidosis, and in my head I know that that means acidosis, but I will write it out here. Acidosis. CO2, 48. That's to the right. So that's towards acidosis. HCO3 is high. That's also to the right. That's towards alkalosis. So when you're figuring out So we know we have acidosis. So we can put it down to respiratory acidosis or metabolic acidosis. So we know for sure this is acidosis. So when you're trying to figure out respiratory versus metabolic, your respiratory is going to correspond to your CO2, and your metabolic is going to correspond to your bicarb. So which one of these matches the pH? CO2 matches the pH in the acidosis, so that means it's a respiratory problem, so you have respiratory acidosis. So pH and CO2 equals acidosis. So really you're just going to look at which one matches. So let's do another example. pH of 7.5, so we know that that is alkalosis. Let's do a CO2 of 43, and let's do a bicarb of 18. So CO2 43, it's normal, but it's more towards the acidosis side. So bicarb is 18, so that's way low. So that, that should be high. So that is leaning towards the alkalosis side. So which one of these matches? Alkalosis, alkalosis, metabolic. See where that comes in? So metabolic alkalosis is pH and bicarb are high. So do you see kind of where I'm getting at now? So respiratory alkalosis, your pH and your CO2 are going to show alkalosis. Your metabolic acidosis, your pH and your bicarb are both going to be acidotic. So it's whichever of these two point in the same direction, if that makes sense. And the next thing I'm going to go into is compensated versus uncompensated. So when you're compensated, that means that the problem is fixed. So compensated, you're going to have a normal pH because they fix the problem, and both CO2 and bicarb are abnormal. So uncompensated means it has not fixed the problem. So that means your pH is abnormal and your CO2 or your bicarb is abnormal and the other is normal. So either your CO2 or your bicarb is going to be off, and the other one that's not off is normal. Okay, so I realized after recording part of this that you couldn't see this partially uncompensated, so I'm going to explain it again. Okay, so partially uncompensated or partially compensated, whichever way they want to put it, basically it means that the problem is still going on. Your pH is abnormal, so it's not fixed the problem yet, but it's really trying. So your CO2 and your bicarb are going to be abnormal because they're both, one of them is trying to correct the other one, so they're both in flux right now, but your pH still hasn't been fixed. Your bicarb is high, and so your CO2's got to raise up and fix the problem, but it just hasn't gotten quite to the point where it can fix the problem yet, and your pH could be better, but as long as it's still outside the normal range, then you're considered uncompensated. And so to get from here to here, you have to go through this stage first. And so sometimes these questions are a little bit more difficult, but if you just go back and draw this on your test and look at the values and go one by one, just go step by step. Don't try and do it all at once. I'm going to leave you to look at the board for just a couple seconds, and then I will see you guys in a little bit.